Welcome to the second episode of the Uganda We Want with the Comrade Rugarama. He's sharing his perspective on the kind of Uganda that he envisions. In case you missed the first episode, you can go on our YouTube channel, the Uganda We Want, and you will, hear and watch and hear and listen from him. And also, if you have any comment, just put it down there. We will be able to, share these comments with them, and even other people will be learning from what you are as well learning from what these people are saying. And in case you want to be part of the show, you can send us an SMS or a WhatsApp on 0778 587186. We'll be able to read out some of your messages. Council, could you again greet our viewers and listeners, and then I'll remind them after you greet them what you said in the first episode, and then we pick it up.
Yes, thank you so much once again, my brother, and salutations to you, our dear brothers and sisters who have taken off time to share with us. I had an opportunity earlier on to share with you the little that time could allow of the Uganda that I would wish to have. But like indeed I have mentioned, it is only what time could allow. I hope that this time around that I could go maybe a little bit at length to add on to the kind of Uganda and indeed the kind of Africa that I would want to have, because I believe, my brother, that there is only one race. We usually talk about races. See, they say American race, African race, what race. Then there are other proponents who talk about two races, that there is the haves and the have-nots.
The have-nots.
That too is true, but
are we experiencing it in Uganda?
Oh, absolutely.
They have and they have nots.
Yes, they have
races, actually.
And they have nots. And you see, this is what happens in a typical capitalistic world. Capitalism has never been a friend of man. What capitalism does is to create those who have, and also it creates the masters, and also creates slaves. This is what we say we left many years ago. As you know, we had slave trade. People very primitive who were trading in other human beings. That's why they call it slave trade. And then, but it hasn't even stopped, because the other time they were being forcefully captured and being traded with the middlemen, the Arabs. But this time, we even sell the little that we have, our young girls and boys, to go and enslave themselves in the Middle East. And some of them are
recently we released, BBC released a documentary on that I and the team of Impact FM, we were part of that documentary, talking about that issue of modern day slavery.
Yes, modern day slavery. And see, the BBC can just talk about it as a media house, but the truth be told, even the so-called Great Britain, the UK, they are also participating in modern day slavery. They just don't want. Then they have got this so-called, they pray holier than they pray more Catholic than the Pope. But in actual sense, when you look at the Western Europe, largely Western Europe, and especially the so-called former colonial powers, they are still practicing modern day slavery. You see, I do not have to capture you and take you by force. If I put in place economic measures to disable you economically and turn you into a slave of some sorts, then it is modern day slavery. Forget about these funny things which they do. You remember not long ago, we had our own High Court judge who was tried and convicted in UK for having taken her former house girl here in Uganda, who is actually a relative, I think. And she found a way of taking her to UK where she was doing a PhD, such that she could continue to help her with the young children as she finishes up her PhD studies. Now, she was found to have illegally gotten her former maid into the country of UK. And of course, that was to show you that, yes, Uganda or whatever other you want to call yourselves, from Africa, you can even be a high court judge, you can even sit on international criminal court, like our former high court judge was, but still, you are beneath, you are not at our standard. We shall also find you as culpable as any other person. This is the message they were sending. Don't think that they were trying to show that for them, that actually the High Court, Ugandan High Court judge was that guilty. No, they were just trying to put us in our place. That for us, we are still
you've got some boundaries.
We are just lower. Even when you are a High Court judge of Uganda, you have no morals, you have nothing. Yes, there could have been mistakes here and there in her case, but I don't think that what she was given as a punishment is actually reciprocal of the so-called crime that she had committed. Anyway, the point I'm making is that the kind of Uganda that we are talking about is that kind of Uganda where our own High Court judges cannot get embarrassment like she was getting embarrassed in there. The kind of Uganda and the kind of Africa we want is not where we have got so many of our young girls and boys going into modern day slavery in the Middle East and fighting for the so-called green card, American green card. Going for Cheyo in a majority of Western Europe, our former direct colonial masters. This is the kind of Uganda I'm looking at.
How about those who go to UAE?
This is the same thing, because you see United Arab Emirates, when you look at the kind of work, it's not as skills. When you look at countries like Nepal, when you look at countries like Pakistan, and you meet those people in United Arab Emirates, they are doing same skilled work, and they are paid, and their governments are responsible for them. The way they manage the labor export in the Middle East is something that would make anybody, a foreigner, a foreign national in the Middle East, love to do something. You do work and you are respected. Here we have got our girls who go in those countries, they are raped, sexually abused, they are first of all cheated by the labor companies which take them there. If they happen to get work, the kind of work they get is less than half of what the labor companies get. They chop their money, and to make matters worse, the conditions which they find there, working conditions, if there is a man in a home and they are big boys, they end up abusing our girls. Stories have come. So in other words, you look at why are these girls running away from their respective countries, Uganda inclusive? Why don't we have regulated, properly supervised labor export? Why is it that the labor exporters end up taking, including graduates, by the way, you end up getting graduates from Makerere and other universities who are working as maids, who are working as garden boys, shamba boys in the Middle East. Now, that kind of situation makes our youth extremely hopeless. It means that we are lacking as a country on proper structure. We have not structured our labor here in Uganda. We have not reoriented our youth into gainful employment, even when we have got a lot of work to do here. I can assure you that with proper governance, with proper cadre identification, with proper leadership, like Chinwachebe said, writing about Nigeria, said the problem of Nigeria is governance. Now, that title could as well have been gone to the problem of Africa is governance. The moment you don't govern well politically, you get every other problem in other spheres. That's why I'm saying that the Uganda we want, which can as well go for the Africa that I want, is where we have got increased intra-trade. That Morocco is trading with Kenya, and the percentages, when you look at 3 years ago, the percentages of intra-trade on the African continent was well below 18%. Do you know the levels of intra-trade in Europe? They are well over 78%. Intra-trade. Can those countries go at war? They know they are going to hurt each other.
Yeah, go deep and explain inter-trade so that people can understand
the intra-trade is the level of trade between and among countries. On the African continent, the level of trade between Morocco and Kenya, the level of trade between Uganda and Algeria, it's just recently that we started increasing exporting coffee and milk in Algeria. The level of intra-trade between Egypt and say maybe Nigeria is so low that when you aggregate, when you combine all our countries, the 54 countries or so on the African continent, the rate at which they trade amongst themselves 3 years ago was well below 18%. Now, in other words, there is no mutual respect, there is no knowledge and understanding, there is no feeling of brotherhood between a country like Algeria and Kenya, a country like Egypt and Rwanda, a country like Mali and probably maybe Chad, you know. And when there is the intra-trade is not increased, you'll find things like religious fights, tribal wars, what they call tribal wars. You know, in Cameroon, for instance, there is what we call South Cameroon. If you go to Cameroon, South Cameroon, which is historically English speaking, is almost different. It's like a different country, different part of Cameroon from the North Cameroon of Paul Biya, which is French speaking. To the extent that the government commits murders in South Cameroon. In Central African Republic, we have got tribal wars. This is not the Africa that I want. Tribal wars on the basis of religion. That these ones are Catholic, the other ones
Anglicans.
are the Anglican or something like that, or Muslims. We have got Nigeria. Nigeria is ripped apart. At one time in the years of Biafra War, the Igbos, who were a direct benefit, for them they think they benefited a lot, who were direct beneficiaries of the English colonial education, they thought they were better than the Fulani in North Nigeria. Up to now, it gave birth to, after the Biafra War of the 1960s, it gave birth to now the Boko Haram. Boko Haram is just nothing but people who think that for them they had been forgotten and they are more religious, they are Muslims, others are English, and the Anglican, they have got nothing, not knowing that as we talk now, even me as a member of the Church of Uganda, we do not subscribe to where our so-called denomination came from. We have since broken away from the Church of England. We subscribe now to the Church of Simani Jerusalem. These ones who are killed.
And even recently, when the Church of England came up with appointing of a female archbishop, the one who is merciful to people who promote. They promote this LGBTQ plus, whatever they call it. So Dr. Kazimba came up and he said, no, for us,
absolutely.
We are not part of that.
There was a pastoral letter. We all have it. So you see now, therefore, that kind of Africa, that kind of Uganda is not the kind of Uganda that I want, where we are fighting tribal wars. Because I can assure you, essentially, there is no difference between a Muganda and a Munyoro. There is no difference between an Igbo and a Fulani. There is no difference between, because when you look at Niger, for instance, majority of that strip of Niger, they are all the tribe, largely. The same tribe is in Nigeria. So what will happen now? You see? Now, when you go to Kenya, you look at the people of Boko district, these ones, the runners, and you go to Kenya, they are also there. It's because of the 1884-85 Bahrain conflict that created all those differences. Now, we have allowed ourselves to be divided further along tribal clan lines.
Instead of involving ourselves in trading, we are busy fighting wars. Our
strength, Africa's strength, is in our seemingly difference in tribes. We have better, we are better managers of differences in the so-called tribe than Europe. And this one is where I agree with my senior, Professor Piero Lumumba, when he says that Africa largely manages diversity than Europe. Go to Europe and see what I'm talking about. If you are French, you are only French, largely French, and they are the ones occupying France. If you are German, largely Germans, they are the ones occupying Germany. If you are Italian, they are largely Italians occupying Italy. They even failed at one time in Europe, you remember. They got an entire sentence of a name. Smani, what is the name again, where they divided, there was this country, is it Montenegro and what, Slovakia, you know, they ended up dividing themselves because they could not live together. But Africa, even when we have gotten patches, the tribe here, clan there, we have largely lived within our own differences. We have managed our diversity very well, to the extent that where we have got differences and murders and killings, there has been a hand, invisible as it may, of a white man who wants to gain something from those different countries. Go to Rwanda. There was genocide. Who was perpetuating the genocide? It was the Belgians who were there, and the French. They are the ones who perpetuated that genocide in Rwanda. It is on record. You see? Who was manning a radio called, Meron, Coron something? It was a radio that was promoting that. You see? They ended up killing themselves. See, there was... when you go to Cameroon and look who is perpetuating Paulo Bia's leadership, that is the French. They are the ones, because they are benefiting from the kind of poor leadership in that country. And let them not pretend. I will tell you this also. Let them not pretend. When a leader like Chakwera in Malawi came, they praised him that he was one of the best and what have you. They were mud-slinging Musarika, but recently Musarika, even at 80 years, he came back. He's a brother to the other Musarika who passed away, who was the president. He came back. When they get progressive leaders, like now we have progressive leaders in Botswana, they don't want that. What did the progressive leader in Botswana, what has he done now? He has told America that no, we don't want a military base here. Because they are going to use that military base to bomb, say, South Africa, or to dictate matters. Because they don't want to fight wars on their own soil. They want to bring the what? The wars on the African continent. During Barack Obama's time, this is not the kind of Africa I want, where we have got military bases, American military bases on our own soil. You go to Djibouti. Every superpower has got a military base in that small country called Djibouti. You ask yourself why? Yeah. America has, China has, Russia has, United Arab Emirates has. On that strip, why? Because Djibouti is the only African country that has got a channel that reads you all the way, it reads you to the water bodies, whereby the water bodies will take you to every part of the world. So all of them are there. That it is of strategic importance. They are the ones who are funding the revolt. If you didn't know, the Europe and America are the ones who are funding disagreements between Somalia and
the Ethiopia?
Yes, they are the ones who are doing that. Why? In Somalia itself, when you look at that the strip, that water body, they are the ones who have made those waters very turbulent. All those mafia on the water is because they are trying to stop the Americans from abusing the water. And that's why you see the kind of case that we are seeing there. Somalia is what it is largely because the Americans wanted to destabilize, and it becomes that way. They have, when the Ethiopians developed the Great Renaissance Dam without the input of the Americans instigated the Egyptians to make sure that they destabilize. That's why, for instance, the Ethiopian Prime Minister has been fighting those wars, internal wars created by the Americans. But you see, because majority of us who don't want to look there, because we are looking at, they were denying me a passport or something, I mean a visa, something
I want
like
to go to
that.
America. If
So
I talk about
yes,
America,
I don't want to be soiled. So in other words, the kind of Africa that we want must be a honest Africa. It must be an Africa, it must be a Uganda that was envisioned by the Kwame Nkrumahs, was envisioned by Ben Bera, was envisioned by Thomas Sankara, was envisioned by Olympiakos, envisioned by like, Sadat. You see, we want that the Patrice Lumumbas, they envisioned. They envisioned an Africa. They envisioned the likes of Julius Mwalimu Nyerere, Paul Magufuli, the likes of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Yes, currently, we can talk about that. You see, there is a problem. His Excellency Yoweri Museveni is not at the same wavelengths like he was when he had just come. Yes, that may be true. That may probably he's not at the same firepower that he had in the 80s and the early 90s. Granted, but does it take away the fact that he was that and he still has those visions? It is, the challenge is now upon us, me and you. When Nelson Mandela Madiba was going to leave the presidency, he called the ANC members and said, I have done my part. I do not claim to have finished the race, but I started running. Now here is the battle. In the same way, equally, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who happens to be the patron of the Pan-African movement where I belong, has done well. He has run his race. Here he is, he's looking at us. What are we doing? When you come to, we get an opportunity like we have gotten on TV, what am I saying? How am I inspiring others? Do I know the problem? What is Africa's problem? Do I know it? All my interest is elsewhere. Do all manner of things, European football, dancing, and you see, the people now, the youth now, if you talk about the group of the 30s and the 40s where I am, you know, going into the 50s, and what is your passion? When you are given an opportunity, what do? We are looking for opportunities to steal. When you look at the levels of corruption, I want a Uganda which is corruption free, whereby if somebody is given an opportunity to serve, get merit. Do you merit to be where you are? After you have been placed there, are you going to do a service to the people that you are supposed to serve? Are you promoting policies that are going to increase intra-trade? You asked me about intra-trade, I have explained it. Are you doing something to make sure that the tribal wars, the clan wars, the religious wars are no more? Are we promoting the organic, self-reclaiming education system that is going to liberate the Ugandan, the African person? Are we increasing on science and innovation? Are we making sure that indigenously we are working on science and innovation as a liberating tool to the Ugandan man? Are we emphasizing you see, we must also be very careful when you look at the infrastructure, because sometimes, at one time, even during, there was a man on the African continent, he was a colonial man. He wanted to create a railway line from, was it Cairo up to where? To Johannesburg.
The one that remained on the paper?
Yes.
You used to write that point. And
absolutely. So it was from Cairo to Johannesburg. You can imagine all of that. But from when he proposed it, as the African Union, as it is now, what have we done? Yes, there is a very beautiful program which they have come up with. And
as it has been.
They are trying. They are trying now. Because when you look at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Africa Continental Free Trade Area, they are doing a good job. They have got their secretariat in Ghana, and you can see that systematically they are working towards achieving an economically liberated continent. It's not easy, because I can assure you, it is computed annually that they have, for instance, introduced a payment mechanism. It's called the Pan-African Payment Mechanism. Now, what does that do? That allows, it's like what the Russians, Chinese, and Indians are doing in this alternative economic bloc of theirs. Here, the Pan-African Payment Mechanism saves us the exchange rate that Africa annually has been losing well over 500 billion, is it 500 billion in exchange rate when we want to trade amongst each other, and we have to convert to a dollar. This is how much money we lose. Can you imagine that? Now, the payment mechanism which we have developed under Africa Continental Free Trade Area is that we can directly, I can trade with the Ghanaians as a Ugandan, I can trade with Ghana without not having to change to a dollar. I can trade with the people of Morocco without having to change to a dollar or a euro. Now, that saves a lot. And you can see that, yes, I know, of course, what you are trying to say, that in the Uganda we want, in the Africa we want, we have made declarations. We have gone to Marabo, we say every country on the African continent should dedicate at least 10% of her domestic budget to health. Now, if we did that, I can assure you that we will be having functional hospitals, all the health centers will be having medicine, because initially it was projected much in those years that Africa should have Democratic Republic of Congo as the pharmaceutical hub, because they have all the medicines, by the way, almost 100% of them is made from the hubs. And there is no hub that is not in Democratic Republic of Congo.
I think when we were in COVID, there is some, in medicine that...
Madagascar. No, that one they had to kill it, and they don't want to go there, because they have what they call that you must have patent rights. You must be approved by World Health Organization. Now, World Health Organization, I would have loved if Trump had continued and made America to exit, because it is also a burden to us. It kills our innovation, and it is also a stumbling block. Because when Madagascar came up with that alternative herbal remedy, and we have testimony that some of these African herbal remedies actually were very, very effective as far as COVID-19 and whatever other strains came about thereafter, as far as combating them was concerned. But they couldn't allow you, and that's what happens. World Health Organization cannot allow you, me, or anybody who is not from their camp to develop an alternative medicine. Like they cannot allow you to develop cure for HIV/AIDS, which they are not going to regret.
I must be part of their camp.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you are making very serious advances, they will make sure to find a way of how to stop you. And that is why I was talking about Unipora, that America was leading the entire globe on how science is supposed to be developed and who governs the application of the same science. Now, China, Russia, and her friends in the BRICS are coming up to say, no, we can also do our own things our own way. You also do. So the Martpora concept, Martpora, not Unipora. As such, therefore, we are going to have, there is NAM now, non-aligned movement. It is coming here in Uganda. We are going to have...
President Museveni, I think, is still the chairperson?
It's something like that when it was done the other time. Now, what we do have there, we promote South development. Yes, we have got challenges. You see the problem, when I have had opportunity, I have told the colleagues that yes, you cannot say that African Union or non-aligned movement does not have problems. Problems are everywhere. European Union, if I may tell you, and our audience, which is well over 70 or so years old now, the so-called civilized economy like Britain, they ran away. They are not members of European Union. They ran away, they said after
they came up with the Brexit.
Yes, through the Brexit, they took off. Can you imagine? And yet that was a country that was at the helm of colonialism. So they wanted to get all these colonies, put them together, but they cannot stand the heat within the European Union. Why? Because in Europe, there are other economies like Germany, which are relatively bigger than UK. And UK wants to remain a big fish in a pond, not in an ocean. So you see what one would correctly describe as deception. These countries, the UK and what, they are very deceptive. They are deceptive because when the truth hits them, they run away. In the same way, therefore, if we must have the Uganda that will make us... there is when I look at these political parties here, and the way they sometimes project themselves, as if tomorrow they are just going to finish the problems of Uganda. The problems of Uganda, like the problems of Africa, are not going to be finished tomorrow. All we need is correct diagnosis, that we diagnose the problem. They used to write a book. There was a set book by, it was I think paper 3, Darkness at Noon. Darkness at Noon, I had very interesting characters like Rubashov, like Great King. That was by Kostler. Yes, that should be the author, Kostler. And somewhere he says that we have diagnosed the problem with microscopic exactness. But every time a hearing knife is held up, a new sower appears. That appears to be the dilemma of Africa. And that appears to be the dilemma of Uganda.
Actually, the exact dilemma of Uganda.
Yes, because I can assure you that the problem of Uganda, without not to be mistaken for a sympathizer of the current government, but I can at least for the very first like 15 years or so tell you that the problem of Uganda had correctly been diagnosed with microscopic exactness. And a hearing knife was being applied by the leadership. But it is interesting that as we have continued on this trajectory, every time a hearing knife is applied, a new sower appears.
Yeah, back to that problem that was diagnosed. What is that problem?
The problem, for instance, was fragmentation. The problem was discrimination. All the problems, by the way, are contained in the 10-point program that NRM came up with, which later on was expanded to the 15-point program. Rehabilitation, self-sustaining national economy, the discrimination, empowering the women who were disadvantaged, promoting inclusivity, education. All those areas that were pointed out in the 10-point program were the problems of Uganda. And if you like, by the way, you go to the bottlenecks. It was a paper authored by Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in South Africa about 2010, around 2010.
Yeah, 15 years
what we
ago.
call 11 bottlenecks to Africa's development. There are things like balkanization, things like tribal religious wars, things like the poor infrastructure, you know, all that, things like low levels of intra-trade, which we talked about. So, you know, therefore, Uganda's problems, in my opinion, the kind of Uganda that would have loved was correctly put across in the 10, now 15-point program by NRM. But every time they have tried to, there are few successes. There are some scores. I will not say, I will not dismiss them. No. Certainly, when you look at things to do with like discrimination, at one time, you know, Uganda was such an interest, you know, in peace and security. We have gained, we have made advances. We have made advances on peace and security. We have made advances in the economic integration and development.
We are not yet there.
No, we are not yet there. Absolutely, we are not yet. It would be deception. And I hate deceiving myself because I would be seen through. You know, when we are on some of these shows, and because you are, say, an NRM supporter, and then you start talking as if there is nothing, everything is smooth. The audience will be able
they
to
have an exact microscopic eye.
They will say, but what is this man talking about? And when you have introduced yourself the way, that's why I was telling you I don't like introducing myself from the start. I would want to be judged later when I have concluded. So anyhow, the point I'm making is that the kind of Uganda that I would love to have was that Uganda that was explained in the 10, 15-point program. The kind of Africa that I would want to have was that one that was explained in the 11 bottlenecks of to Africa's development. The moment we attack them and we progressively work, because the problem is that we think every problem is going to be solved during our lifetime. I can assure you that some of the successes, by the way, if they must come, some sacrifices, including death, must happen. Yes. If DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, must see the life that Patrice Lumumba envisaged, there must be a rebirth of another Patrice Lumumba who probably must also die in order for DRC to be the paradise that Patrice Lumumba envisaged.
Yeah. Comrade, I think you talked about the 11 bottlenecks facing Africa by President Museveni. It will really be good if we serve our audience good as we are about to sign out. And at least we talk about them briefly. Probably if we don't, complete the entire, list, we will come back to it in the next episodes. But the first one Mr. Museveni said is ideological disorientation.
Exactly. Now, we can go step by step. Thank you. Now, ideological disorientation. One, you will find that in terms, and this is what I was talking about from the start, in terms of thinking, do you know the problem of Uganda? Do you know the problem of Africa? Do you think spiritually? Do you think narrowly? Or you are broad? Ideological clarity. For you to be able to focus and know that somebody from Morocco is not different from somebody I have been to Casablanca, for instance. When you go to an equivalent of Owino of Casablanca, you meet those women, either in French or Arabic. They ask, how is Africa? That is ideological disorientation. They don't know that Casablanca is part of Africa. They don't know. When you look at that strip that divides them from, is it Spain? Spain or what? No, I think Spain. Portugal, Spain, and that kind of stuff. You look at how the Moroccans police are treating the other color people who are attempting to cross over into Europe. You look at Morocco itself. Twice, Morocco has applied to leave Africa and join European Union. Europe,
yes.
They rejected them. So that ideological now, ideologically, do you think that the Morocco, our brothers in Morocco, are ideologically clear about where they want? One, do you know why they do that? Simply because it is African Union position to tell them that the Republic of Sahrawi, the Porosseria, is actually an independent country and they should not continue to subject them to neo-colonialism. That's so. That therefore they would want to get out of Africa and join European Union because of ideological disorientation. You thinking of me that because I'm a Munyankore, I have nothing to do with the Muganda, not knowing that mutually, economically, we will reinforce each other.
The intra-trade participation you talked about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The disability for me not to see that it's the kind of education I have attained, which is colonial in nature, if it has not enabled me to see that I'm actually one and the same as somebody who has, or maybe is an Anglican, another one is a Roman Catholic. You be a Roman Catholic? Go away. The Romans are there in Italy. You find somebody proudly saying, I'm a Roman Catholic, I've got nothing to do with Anglican. Which Anglican? Even these people in the UK who so-called brought this Anglicanism, they have since run away from it. So ideological clarity. Yeah. What are the broader problems? What are the broader common shared issues that all of us should bind us together than what divides us?
Let me ask you this question, Comrade. I asked it to Jagenda before he left, and I want to hear from you as well. When you talk about ideological, like people of ideology, Ugandans who have got ideology, let's talk about our leaders. When you look around our leaders, apart from, let's say, Museveni, you know, my talks about this, you could say he has got ideology. And I'll come back to these people that he leads with and those who are in the opposition. Do we have leaders of ideology? Are they ideological? You are an election manager and I want you to appeal to the voter. How can I identify that Comrade Rugarama is of ideology?
Unfortunately, it pains me, but let me say this. That we have got a declining community of ideologically clear people. Those who are offering themselves, with all due respect, by the way, to those who are offering themselves for political leadership, they do not go there with very clear, mature, clean, ideological perceptions. They are there for purposes, majority of them, they are there for purposes of earning. Actually, politics has become a lucrative economic business. To the extent, including war. I was discussing something to do with South Sudan, and I came to a conclusion that people are manufacturing and forming armed rebel groups because they know tomorrow they are going to be called to a negotiation table and they will be given an envelope because they are also part of the rebel. So rebel activism, rebel activities in South Sudan and elsewhere, including even now rapid forces in Sudan, Khartoum, are there mainly because they are going to be called and they will share money. They have to be used as mercenaries. In the same breath, it is very sad but true that in Uganda, we have got a growing number of politicians at local government, parliamentary, including even presidency, who are entering politics for purposes of getting something to do. And that is the dilemma that Chunwachebe was talking about, the dilemma or the problem of Nigeria, leadership. The problem of Uganda, leadership. The problem of Africa, leadership. Whereby we take leadership not as a service, a redemptive service, but as an economic activity whereby somebody will have to get a retirement package. That's why people don't want to leave. You look at people at all across the spectrum. They are there, they don't want to leave.
Okay. Comrade, thank you so much. I think we'll pick it up from here. On the 11 bottlenecks facing Africa, we have only talked about the first one. So we have 10 more to go. We will have him to join us again.
No, I would appreciate that one, by the way, because I think we need to go into the depths of these bottlenecks.
Yes.
Because earlier on we had talked about the intra-trade, we had talked about the infrastructure, the damaged infrastructure, be it telephones, be it roads, be it airways, be it what.
Yeah, we will go in depth of this. Our time is gone, and I want to sign out. I want to say thank you so much for following us on the Uganda We Want, and we will definitely pick it up from here. My name is Malanzi. You have heard it from Comrade Rugarama. What are you going to do to ensure that we achieve the Uganda, the East Africa, and the Africa that we want? What we are saying is do something and do it right now.